Hello everyone, welcome to another insightful episode where we will discuss about transformation in India's education system with National Education Policy 2020 and National Credit Framework. We will break down how these policies will impact student skill assessment and also the employability. To guide us through this, today we have Dr. Sabyasachi Bhattacharyya, who is an assistant professor in the Department of ETC, Barak Engineering College, and Residential Girls Polytechnic, Golaghat. A warm welcome to you, Dr. Sabyasachi. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you, Tasrin. Thank you so much for the introduction and the nice welcome. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm doing really well. I hope you are also doing nice and you are also doing well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so today we will be talking about this NEP 2020, NCrF, and also different schemes and opportunities for students by AICTE and also other regulatory bodies. So let me ask you, this NEP 2020 is going to shift this educational scenario, right? Expect.
Yeah. So while speaking about this aspect, I will be also briefly touching upon the NCrF, which is going directly in line with the NEP. So firstly, let me start off with NEP. So as all of you know, NEP, the new education policy set up by the Government of India, the MHRD, in the year 2020, has already been applicable, has already basically been applicable into the different educational institutions, right from the starting tier 1 institutions of India, leading to, I mean, the IITs, the NITs, all the AICTE governed institutions, the UGC governed institutions. By this, I mean the general colleges, the AICTE run engineering colleges, the diploma level institutions, very important, the polytechnics, and the other skill level institutions, even the ITIs as well. So the basic shift in education paradigm is that the non-NEP curriculum or the previous education system was inspected or investigated to be basically a very, like, what to say, a teacher-centric approach to learning, where the teacher was the boss of the entire classroom. The classroom would be just following what the dictator or the teacher would say. Whereas in opposition to that, the NEP curriculum or the NEP paradigm as a whole, it is a learner-centric curriculum. So this came in from the dimension of the Washington Accord that the Government of India and also the other state governments have been following for a number of years. But it was unfortunately it was only in pen and paper that it was being followed. But when there was a summit, in that summit, a very interesting point came up in the year 2000, roughly 2017 or 18, that the skills sector, which has to recruit the Indian education systems products, that is primarily our students, it was mentioned that they were not really, although educated, although they had the degrees, but they were not really skill assessed, or the skills were not certified. So essentially, a student may be learning, if suppose I am from the electronics and communication background, so I would be saying, suppose a student could be learning analog circuits or a student could be learning digital circuits, but there is no certification as such that binds him that he is skilled enough in analog or digital circuits. So that question came up as a surprise to most of our educators and most of the higher level administrative and bureaucratic people as well, because we considered that only the degrees were sufficient enough to license a student, or to rather trademark a student as a learned educated person, and sufficient enough to get a job. But the Washington Accord said that all the countries who have signed the agreement related to the Washington Accord, they must bring into picture an additional skill framework which will be universally accepted. That is, it will be accepted by Washington Accord, and as such it will be accepted by the skill sector outside India as well as throughout the world. And only that the people from India who are looking for some skill sector jobs, maybe in countries like Japan, Taiwan, or some other countries, depending upon what skill they are trained in. So they would be employable. Otherwise, the employment would always remain very much local to the Indian standard. And also the parallel aspect that had come up, that most of the times when the industry, even within India, came up with the aspect of learning, basically came up with the aspect of like skilling of the students, they also found that during the recruitments, although a student could have a certain CGPA or a certain percentage for his different semesters, but might not have the necessary skill set. And that led to a aspect called the new education policy, basically, where the new policy was devised such that the entire flexibility of the learning will be given to the students. It will not be a very rigid system as such that a student has to complete a syllabus within, say, or a particular course within a certain number of stipulated years, and throughout a student can bag in, drop out. But the thing is, he has to complete all his curricula with reference to a standard guideline, and that guideline is basically the NCrF, that is the National Credit Framework. So now, as our students and also our educators, they should understand, whenever the educator is delivering and the student is learning, the focus should not be on the constant assessment of the subject in terms of tests, theory examinations, written examinations. Rather, the aspect has to be, or the evaluation has to be, based on your skills, basically skills in terms of whether they have acquired the right kind of hand skills, the right kind of psychomotor skills, which the students should know after learning a course. So basically, it is no longer important, if I give an example, that after learning analog circuit, suppose they are studying a topic called oscillator, it is no longer important for them to know, or no, it is important obviously, but it is no longer a mandate for them to know in a textbook language what is an oscillator. The definition that an oscillator is a circuit which does such and such operation is not necessary. Rather, the outcome of the course should be that whether a person or whether a student is able to design a oscillator in hand or design a oscillator in circuit level. So that is what the change is, if I say it through an example in very brief, Tasreen. So I think I was able to give a prelude to the thing, basically what we are going to discuss. Yeah.
Yes, totally, very elaborately. Okay, so that means there will be much flexibility in taking subject, right? And also student can be multidisciplinary. Normally we go multidisciplinary during our PhD, right? Like till masters we are learning our own subject. So how these students are going to be trained? Because the faculty members at present, we are used to the old education policy, right? So how it is going to be in such a way that it will be a good success?
Yeah, so I'll take it over. So basically the thing is the UG 4-year program and the UG 3-year program. Let me touch upon it as a reference course, because if I explain this, then the master's or the PhD program will also be parallelly clear. I hope that is fine, Tasreen. I'll take up the UG 3-year and the UG 4-year. So the UG 3-year course, which has been decided for NEP, that it will be a 120 credit framework, basically a total of 120 credit framework, whereas the UG 4-year course, which is typically the B.Tech course, the engineering course that all of us have gone through, that will be a total of 160 credit. So now this credit, earlier the system or the mechanism was that the student would start off on the first year, he would start acquiring his different credits, he will be studying all the different subjects, he would be like rote learning maybe at some point of time. Just if the student is not that well trained or equipped, then he would be rote learning at some point of time, he would be studying each and every subject, and he would be securing his minimum marks, and accordingly he would be gaining the credits. And that 120 credits the student had to get in one go if it was a 3-year program, or he could have a 160 credit for a 4-year program, but it would be all in one go. Now parallel to this, since I am also associated with the Polytechnic, I would like to say that similar to the 4-year degree program, we also have the 3-year diploma program, which also follows a similar kind of a guideline, which has another 160 credit. That is a 3-year polytechnic, or if I say about graduation. So now what will happen is, in this there will be a structure after the student comes out from school as in I am considering 11th 12th within school as well. So there the student will have an opportunity that he, depending upon his needs, he will choose the degree. Suppose I name the polytechnic structure first. So there, if a student enters, he enters with a class 10th pass. So if he enters a class 10th pass, he can take his first year, and then he can leave. He can choose to leave. He or she can choose to leave. Then the student will not be getting a diploma. Rather, he would be getting a skill certificate. That skill certificate would be certified as per the national credit framework. There are 8 levels in the national credit framework, starting from level 1 to level 8, where level 1, 2 and 3 would recommend to the school level education. Some of the higher levels such as 4 and 5 would be on the polytechnic and the engineering B.Tech level or the BSc level, and the higher levels, that is level 7 and level 8, would be on the higher studies, basically on the masters, MScs, M.Techs, MS, and the 8th level is basically the highest level of education possible, that is the PhD program. So now once a student leaves the first year course, what he or she will have to do is, suppose I decide that I have some family issues or some problem that I want to do a job immediately after the diploma first year is over, I want to leave. So I will have to do at the end of the first year 20 number of additional credits. That is basically a 20 credit course, which may be divided into number of courses actually, which will be purely skill based, and according to whom those skills will be basically based on the NCrF guidelines, the National Credit Framework guidelines. There are guidelines which decide that what kind of skills a person should have if he has to be employable right after the first year of diploma program, or say right after the first year of the degree program. So that way the student can leave immediately after first year if he or she has completed 20 credits, the additional 20 credits. Whereas somebody who would continue his education to the second year or to the third year will not be taking up those additional courses, because he is not jumping the ladder, rather he or she is moving with the conventional education. So that person who has left the organization will be taking up basically those 20 credits extra. Now the question that might be coming to all of your minds is, who decides? Like the NCrF is just a framework, but where will those students be? Where will student courses? So those courses will be basically available from some skill development organizations. Like the government of Assam is presently in the process of signing an MOU with the National Skills Development Corporation, NSDC. NSDC courses are all NCrF and NEP education map. So if a student takes up any of the courses of NSDC as a skill course after first year, then he would be able to claim it as additional 20 credit. So this is how the framework would proceed basically. Am I clear on this, Tasri?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you then how the employability scenario will become, because someone going after completing first year will have a competition who is going after second year or third year, right? So will not that be disadvantage?
No, that is not. That is the difference that will the basically in the education scenario. Actually, the thing is, whenever you are mentioning about the NCrF, now earlier what had happened, the qualification was the judging parameter. Am I right? Basically, suppose if you are applying for a post, there is always qualification based parameter that will be there to judge you whether you are eligible job. Now, as I have mentioned, there are NCrF levels. So education as such, educational qualifications are the basic minimum eligibility for applying. So if a student has passed out after first year and is looking for some very core specific skills, suppose if someone passes out from a polytechnic level after the first year, basically he is looking for some motor skills. Suppose it may be some it may be for a polytechnic student, it may be so suppose a mechanic, or maybe a person who is expert in, say, a DTP operation or some other very, very specific skill, or it may be some welding skill or something of that sort. Whereas if a person passes out of the degree, then it would be like, suppose if I am talking about the semiconductor technology, then now the semiconductor technology is coming up. So in semiconductor technology, the you would be interested to know that the who applies for semiconductor technology. Basically, all of us know a person who would ideally be a B.Tech in electronics and telecommunication engineer. Am I right? So that is as per the qualification. But no, as per NCrF levels, it is not the person applying for semiconductor industry who is having only the B.Tech in electronics and telecommunication engineering. Rather, it is a person who is B.Tech in ECE plus has completed the NCrF level 4. So NCrF level 4 means he should have completed after his B.Tech a specialized training which is accredited by any of the bodies like NSDC and all, who would accredit it. Only then that person would be eligible for a job. If he is leaving after B.Tech first semester. And if he is leaving after, say, diploma first semester, then that student has to have the accredited course as per level 1 that is given by NSDC. So the job eligibilities are now going to be written or redefined based on the NCrF level, at least at the government organizations, and also the government will urge the private organizations also to redefine the qualifications based on NCrF level. Why this is happening, I'll tell you. If I relate it with what is happening presently, always in any job, there are some essential skills and there are some desirable skills mentioned. Am I right, Tasri? Am I right? Yeah. So in those, in the aspect, basically, what is happening is person goes to apply, the minimum eligibility is those essential skills, and the desirable skills are basically the additional skills. So those additional skills will now become the NCrF level, because the industry will only be hiring a semiconductor related person if he has some specialization in terms of IC design, some exposure in terms of IC design, at least some basic exposure. But if the person is not like eligible in terms of, say, only having the B.Tech degree, not that specialized skill, that person will not be able to get that job. So that is the shift in the paradigm, that the students or even the educators who are training the students to get those jobs, they should now check what are the requirements at the NCrF level and not the requirements at the educational eligibility. Am I clear on that?
Right.
I hope I answered that.
Totally. Okay, so let me ask you then, these vocational courses that we already have, right?
Yes.
So they will be standalone degree, or they are going to be merged along with this NEP?
The vocation, are you eating the as well, or the ITI?
Right, like B
Or
vocations are already there, right? Where student can go for 1 year or 2 year. So it will be there, or this is also going to be merged with this NEP 2020?
Actually, as per the conventional system also, suppose if I speak about the 2-year ITIs and all those courses, then there is a provision already in the previous batches also, previous non-NEP structure also, that they can, those students can actually take lateral entry into polytechnics, and then they can move through the regular stream of education. Okay, but the same aspect under NEP also, now everything will be on the same ladder. There will be nothing, no concept as such of a standalone course which is totally separated out, but it will be through the same ladder. On that ladder, your occupation or the kind of jobs that are on offer for you will depend upon the level of specialization that you are having. If your specialization stands in motor skills, then you will have jobs related to ITIs, diploma level, that way. But mind it, that will be based on the NCrF level again, and not based on your what kind of degree you are having. So if I give you an example, a hypothetical example of two friends, suppose I am mentioning that suppose there are two people, Ram and Shyam, who move through the same kind of class 10 background, the class 12 background. Both of them appear for the JEE. One of them,
Sorry to interrupt. Okay.
Yeah.
There is a sound coming in your voice. And yeah, I think some issue might be in the earphone.
Just a minute, I'll just check.
Yeah, now it is fine. Like you can speak now. In between it happened. Now it is fine.
Now it's okay. You are able to hear me, right?
Yeah, now fine. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, now perfect. Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, so basically so what I was saying was that basically when we are talking about two friends, so I'll just start off from that. Two friends who have gone through the same kind of basic educational background. They have completed together class 10th, then they have completed the class 12th, then they have appeared for the JEE examination for engineering entrance. Basically, they want to move for engineering. Suppose both of them are focusing towards the same branch of engineering. Let it be ECE only, just for an example. So now, one of them, Ram, he clears of engineering. Now, the other person, Shyam, he could not clear the entrance examination. So he takes admission in BSc degree. Okay, BSc degree, which is the conventional practice, and he thinks that he or she shall be pursuing the general line. Now, Ram, in our earlier trade of education, what was our thought process? Our thought process was that whoever has left us immediately after the engineering, basically, they could not again join back into the same kind of job roles or into the same kind of job offers that an engineering pursuant will get. So basically, some options would be less for any person who would be studying the general trade. Now, what is happening is this person, Ram, he will climb through the ladder. He will move his first year, second year, third year, fourth year of engineering. He will get the necessary credits that are necessary for him to sit for an interview. At the same time, this other person, Mr. Shyam, he was studying the BSc program. He studied the BSc. He took admission in MSc. Mind it, he did not complete, he should not be completing MSc. He is in the first year of MSc. The NCrF levels are decided in such a way that Ram, who has studied engineering, completed his B.Tech, only completed his B.Tech, has the same NCrF level like the person Shyam, who has completed BSc, entered into the first year of MSc, and has completed NCrF level 6, which is the NCrF level just at the undergraduate level for a 3-year program. So if Shyam has the similar NCrF level with respect to Ram, so both these NCrF levels are now considered to be the same. One is Ram having completed just his graduation degree, and one is Shyam, who did not get a seat in engineering. He would have completed it, like he would have completed his BSc, took admission into MSc. At the same time, he would have completed NCrF level 6. So what would happen now? Both the NCrF levels would be mapped. So what stands out is Ram's qualification is actually exactly same as that of Shyam at the present status. So if any job offer is made at NCrF level 6, then Ram and Shyam, both of them
would actually be eligible to sit for the same job, and maybe if Shyam performs better in the interview, he may get that job. So that demarcation between an engineering person and a non-engineering person will not be there anymore. And that is the challenge actually that engineering graduates will face at their side, because they would be competing with the others as well, who might not have their same degree, but they have the same skill, because the NCrF level, it gives them the certification of these skills. Whereas the ye would also face the other people who are pursuing general studies, they would face the challenge of having to complete, being in general line, they would have the challenge of completing the necessary NCrF level. So this is the basic change. So everything is around NEP and NCrF levels, including the job aspects, not on the what degree you are having in your hand. And thus it is not a education centric or a degree centric system, it is a skill centric system. That is the major paradigm change in NEP 2020 and with NCrF. Tasrin, I hope I answered the thing.
Right. So this is going to be something that will take off the examination pressure, some of the entrance pressure from the student, right?
Yeah, definitely. So at that aspect also, if a student, suppose if I speak about our country as a whole, if you see like it is unfortunate also up to some extent, but the thing is the preparation that is necessary for cracking out a JEE examination, the JEE mains, specifically the JEE advanced, it is quite financially burdening on some of the students, specifically students who might be willing but have a background for, say, have a rural background, basically not much of finances at their stake. So now the problem is here, the good thing that actually comes up actually here is that those students can now have a benefit, a very, very big benefit, that if he or she wishes and he or she studies the NCrF level in a very, very proper manner, and if he or she pursues the NCrF skills with some organizations like NSDC. I'm constantly pointing out NSDC because NSDC skill courses are totally free of cost courses that can be accessed by any of our students. I will also provide you the link and the link for those courses, and also students can register. Most of the courses are free. Some of the courses are premium but have very, very nominal charges. And also there is the NSDC JobX portal as well, which we are under Government of Assam, we are presently working on. So that aspect, those students, even without being in the circuit, without being in the engineering circuit, they can compete with an engineering student to get their same job, because they would be having the same skill, provided they would be having the same skill set. So that is the major aspect actually. And therein, the entrance exam burden that goes out, because even if you have to prepare for JEE mains, till today it is a very big challenge, and only people who come from a certain level of affluent families, or I should say higher middle class, mostly they are able to crack. Obviously there are exceptions, but mostly it is like that. So that burden would go away. So a person from Dhemaji, a person from Lakhimpur can dream of having VLSI skills in his hand and getting a job maybe in the upcoming semiconductor industry in Jagirod or in other places of India. So that is the thing. Yeah.
That is amazing. Okay, so let me ask you, these policies will be applied to students who have joined their education in 2020, or the past students will also be counted?
No, actually, the thing is that the NEP 2020 is a framed guideline. Basically, it is a framed guideline as per 2020. But the thing is that implementation will depend upon the different institutions which are autonomous. That would depend upon the universities, IITs, NITs, from when do they adopt. Most of them have already adopted, and for the at large for the students, it would depend upon the respective state governments as well as the central governments from which batch they would consider NEP 2020 as their framework. Suppose if I speak in case of our educational system, so they are actually this NEP 2020. The current students who are in the first year both in engineering as well as diploma education, that is engineering colleges and polytechnics, they are in the NEP batch. And the previous batches of our institutions, the previous batches that are there in our institutions, those students can leverage some of the benefits of NEP, of being in NEP batch as such, in terms of, say, some of the facilities, like along with NEP 2020 coming into the picture, there are certain aspects that are also coming up in all institutions. That is basically some skill courses, as I have said, the NSDC courses. There is a MOU going on with NSDC. Then there are different other things, like there is a Springboard platform of the Infosys. Then the Tata Technologies is developing a very good state-of-the-art research facility and a skill training facility in all the polytechnics and ITIs. So those students who have even passed out as being non-NEP batches, they can also leverage those benefits from the institution in terms of learning the things. And what you are mentioning in terms of their academic degrees or their academic curriculum, like whether they will be treated also in the same NEP regime because they have not studied their courses under the NEP regime, they would be, Tasreen, because the thing is, Dr. Tasreen, because the thing is, even if a student hasn't passed out under the NEP batch from his educational institution, still there can be two dimensions. Either that student will go to a college next to study her graduation or her master's degree. By the time the student moves for graduation or a master's degree in India, he or she will always be inducted into the NEP batch in that course, his or her next course. So he or she will also fall under the NEP regime. And if he or she goes for some studies abroad, then automatically all the top universities under the QS rankings, they would always be under the Washington Accord. So the same level of NCrF will be followed at an international scale for them. So the students at any level, they can be considered under NEP. A student, suppose my student who has passed out maybe last year, has not passed out under NEP regime from my college, but that student, when he or she has gone to the next level, maybe some engineering college or some master's student, if he or she has studied under me in my engineering college, then that student would be a NEP student in his or her next course, basically. And how that would be coming into the picture, like how his or her study in the current institution will be judged or will be monitored, is another very important concept, that is the NAD, National Academic Depository of the UGC, and there is a concept of ABC account, that is Academic Bank of Credit. Whatever courses, whatever skill trainings, whatever workshops a student has done under his particular course, like during his engineering, suppose if he or she is non-engineering, non-NEP batch also studying his engineering or her engineering, then those courses, what it will happen is they would be taken up like under the NAD or under the ABC account. All certifications has to be uploaded under the ABC account. They would be digitally certified, and the next institution which will fit that student into a NEP regime or a NEP batch, they will get his or her certificate only through the ABC account in a digitally verifiable manner. So that mapping will be done from a non-NEP to a NEP syllabus as well in a very, very transparent manner. Did I answer it properly for you?
Properly, yes. Okay, so let's talk about this AICTE and other regulatory bodies, different schemes, and how they are going to benefit the student, and how a student can track all these updates. So the faculty members will tell, or they need to keep a track on them on their own.
Okay, very nice question. Actually, AICTE provides a number of student development schemes. Actually, they are providing throughout providing a number of very, very good development. Go to the, you can go in. Suppose we share link with so that you can share. City has own development tabs. Number schemes under those. So today direct each
Your sorry, doctor, your voice is again breaking. Can you repeat?
Yeah, just
Uh,
is it fine now?
yeah, now fine.
Yeah, so I'll just repeat it for you. So AICTE from its very inception stage, actually what happened is AICTE from the very inception stage, what they are doing is basically that they are giving a number of emphasis on the student development schemes. The AICTE is student development scheme. So anybody, actually not only a faculty, rather a student also can visit the AICTE website. He can go to the student development tab and he can see the different types of schemes that are available for a student under the scheme document. So for each of the schemes, there is a scheme document which mentions about the, suppose if it's a financial grant, it mentions how much amount of money will be provided as a grant for the student. It mentions about the eligibility. Obviously, all levels of students will not be provided for all the schemes. Like some schemes are for final year students of engineering or undergraduate program. Some are for first year students of master's program. Some are even for only diploma programs. We also have things which schemes which are applicable only for diploma programs under the skill sector aspects. So that is how basically these things are. That is how basically those things will come up. So under AICTE, if I would name some of the schemes, firstly, if I go to the scholarships specifically for the students, the girl students, since I'm presently associated with a women's polytechnic institution, so there are schemes like Pragati and Saksham. Pragati is basically for women students who are belonging to different caste and categories. They can actually leverage the benefit of getting those scholarships. Many of our students, actually most of our students, are availing them. Again, there is a Saksham scheme, which is basically for the differently abled students. So for differently abled students, again, they can look into getting the Saksham scheme scholarship. So that is there. After COVID-19, another special scheme of scholarship has come up in terms of the name Swanath scholarship. So Swanath scholarship is basically for a student who might have lost his or her parent during the unfortunate COVID-19 pandemic. So there are different eligibility criteria under which the student can gain such scholarship. So I would request the student community in large to go through such scholarships, such advantages, and the teachers also. And obviously, in every institution there is a training placement cell, and there is a administrative body scholarships cell is there. So from there they can get all this information, and directly also they can get it for the information purpose. For applying purpose, they can contact their cells. Now this was all related to, say, the scholarships, but the thing is, beyond that also AICTE has number of other grants. Like there is a AICTE INAE student grant. So INAE student grant is basically for students who would like to participate in any competition which is being held abroad. It is specifically a scholarship for the students of either pre-final or final year who want to participate in some poster competition or some paper competition, some seminar, some conference, which should be specifically one conference of abroad. So he can make an application through his supervisor or through the institution as a whole, and his or her application will be judged by a committee formed by the AICTE, and based on that the funding for that is provided. It consists of partial, I think, airfare, then like logistics, then different local fairs, etc. So those type of aspects are there. So that is INAE grant for the students. Then you also have the global M.Tech program, basically MIT ACS. So wherein for different level of institutions, if the student is wanting to go for some foreign exchange program from, say, third year of his undergraduate program, if he wants to move abroad for some study, some research, even it might not be a study, it might be might not be a course, I mean to say, it might be a research for a particular period of time in continuation with some project which he or she has done in the host institution. That also the student can deliver. That also the student can constantly, he or she can pursue through that M.Tech AICTE scheme. And that way, there are actually a number of schemes. I would be sharing the link with you. I would be actually opening it up to you now for say maybe any specific questions related to this, related to the AICTE schemes. I have mentioned some of the schemes. Obviously, there are other schemes also, and at institution development level also there are some schemes, obviously, from which also the students can benefit in terms of getting some advantages. But for that, the institute has to apply for those schemes, and when the institute applies, the students can leverage the benefits. Another scheme is the AICTE book grant scheme, which is also available under the student development section. That is a purely student development scheme, basically, under which he or she can get the facilities related to some textbooks. Suppose if his or her institution is in a very rural area, or the library facilities are not that much adequate or up to the mark, basically. So this is some brief about the AICTE. If you have any questions. Yeah.
Okay. Before concluding, I just want to ask one last question. Yeah. If there is any key message that student can take from this discussion, what that would be?
Could you please pardon? Actually, there was, I think, some connection glitch in your at your side. I couldn't hear you actually. Yeah.
Okay. So before concluding, my last question is that if there is any key message that a student can take away from this discussion, what that would be?
Yeah. So there could be two aspects from this entire discussion. The first point that I would like to again reiterate, I had already mentioned, is that now when a student comes to the education system, he should first understand that the institution or the teachers are facilitators. Mind it, they are facilitators. There are enormous number of resources available for a student to study and get skilled or educated himself. And it is not that a student has to just depend on, I'm using the word just depend on the textbook or the materials that are being provided by the educator or the student. And as a teacher, I also with total humbleness, I also admit that yes, there are a number of learning resources from where a student can learn in a very good manner, in a very organized manner, as compared to maybe what a educator would deliver. Obviously, for certain aspects, like when it comes to very like intense level of brainstorming in terms of some topics, some research discussions, some mathematical formulations and those type of things, a in-person teacher is necessary. But there are enormous number of actually materials, or enormous number of enormous number of materials on the platter, which would basically help them in terms of NSDC, in terms of Infosys Springboard. IBM has his own development platform, IBM Skills Build platform. So from there, they can always get the skills, the necessary skills. The teacher's role in NEP 2020 would mostly be to facilitate those materials. So the resources are somewhere on the cloud maybe, and the teacher is there at the center. The students are somewhere. The teacher's role is to connect the correct student to the correct cloud or to the correct learning resources, and to assess from there and to guide the learning process, rather than the teacher being the sole control, that whatever the teacher mentions about a particular subject, suppose electrical engineering or control systems or any subject for that matter, mathematics, engineering, physics, that is the only thing. It is not like that not anymore under the NEP 2020. It is all a teacher being a facilitator, and that the student should also know, and his or her responsibility has also increased. And this is basically that responsibility with respect to the responsibility with respect to the learning has increased, and also the student's responsibility that it is basically a student's responsibility that it is basically your basically a learner based system, that is he is at the center and not the teacher being at the center. The student would like to say, student should approach the teacher that he or she needs this type of training or this type of learning. The teacher would assess that and guide him or her in the proper manner. So that is one aspect. Secondly, the student has to understand that he has come to the institution not to attain the degree only. Obviously, the degree shall be necessary, but only for the minimum eligibility. Once the minimum eligibility is done, the student should be very careful regarding the NCrF level, NCrF level 1 till NCrF level 8. A student cannot be having skills at the level of NCrF level 5 and asking or demanding for jobs at NCrF level 7. So that we are trying to get jobs, suppose in VLSI domain in electronics. Many students target job offers from organizations like Xilinx, organizations like Cadence, but at B.Tech level, which is level 6. But the truth is that for getting a physical design engineer level position in Cadence, the requirement is level 7. Requirement, I am saying, not in terms of the eligibility. The eligibility may mention that it is B.Tech in electronics and telecommunication engineering, because they are not looking for a master's degree holder or a PhD degree holder. But having said that, they also mention some desirable skills. Those desirable skills may be a rough amount of experience in terms of floor planning design, a rough amount of experience in terms of VLSI physical layer level knowledge, and those type of aspects. So where will those desirable skills come from? Those will come from the skill training. From where? From NSDC. And what you will fulfill? You will fulfill basically the credit framework, basically that level 6 or level 7 you will fulfill. Only then, being a B.Tech ECE engineer, you can get those jobs. Otherwise, obviously not. So that is the thing, basically.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sabyasachi. This was such a fruitful discussion, and I'm sure the students are going to get hugely benefited from this discussion. Thank you so much for joining me.
I hope it was a short tint, so I hope I could do justice to the content, and I hope you got whatever material was, whatever like information was necessary for the students at this aspect. I had mentioned you that like, we would be discussing some things. A new side would get opened with this discussion, and I hope like it has got opened up in terms of a new side as to what students need to know, right, along with the tips that will be there.
Definitely. Okay, thank you once again. Thank you
so much.